being an industry player, creating a proper foundation of cybersecurity, where does it start? Because, as a country, as an economy, sometimes we say, oh, this can start in our education system, where we introduce, younger people in some of these elements in the education system. So you grow and you progress to have a solid foundation after a while. From your perspective on the African continent, where can we start solidifying this aspect of cybersecurity?
You've touched on some of the places that we need to start. I mean, I think that we need to start with education. In everything that we want to do that involves creating change, you achieve change through awareness and education. So I think the best place to start is in awareness. I think within our own organizations and our institutions, we need to make our colleagues aware of the impact of cybercrime and the impact of the importance of cybersecurity and the impact of poor cybersecurity. So we need to understand that for an organization to be the victim of a cyber attack, somehow there needs to be a gateway into that organization. And many a time, the gateway is via email. Industries research tells us about 90% of successful cyber attacks start with a very simple email. So I think if we educate our colleagues from a business perspective, if we educate our colleagues about how these cyber attacks happen, how it is that they can take action to be able to prevent themselves being the conduit by which a cyber attack occurs within their organization, that will be a really good starting point. And then I guess we need to stop and we need to look at how do we bring awareness to society more generally. Because sometimes when we look at the banking sector that we operating a lot, customers themselves, and this is from a global perspective, a lot of the crime, the cyber crime that we see today is actually through customers being unaware of what the cyber criminals are trying to do. So the customers themselves become victims due to their own lack of knowledge. So financial institutions, governments, we all need to focus on educating the broader population about cybersecurity, about how it manifests, how cybercrime manifests itself, and how they can improve their own personal cybersecurity. As long as you've got a mobile phone, as long as you're connected to the internet, you are at risk of being the victim of some form of cybercrime. And that's one of the core things that our business is here for. We are working with the financial services sector, the health sector, the professional services sector, to help staff understand what cybersecurity is and what they need to do, what steps they need to do to be able to protect the organizations that they work for.
Definitely, they say ignorance is bliss. And the good book says, people perish due to lack of knowledge, and that applies to cybersecurity. Looking at cybersecurity in itself, like your business, it is a business and industry by itself. What are the opportunities of innovation around cybersecurity, and how can African startups take advantage of this space to grow something amazing out of it?
Well, I think that's a really, really interesting question. The threat that we've talked about, the sort of estimated threat from a cybercrime perspective, we said was sort of north of $1.5 trillion in terms of what we're recording. And that's not going to get any less, because the world, and particularly Africa, is becoming more and more digital every day. The pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, the global pandemic, has led us to understand and led us to see the impact of digitalization. All the things that we need to do in the physical context, we're now doing online. So many of our colleagues that used to travel into the office on a daily basis are now working from home. So the threat of cyber criminality and the importance of cybersecurity is only set to grow on the African continent. So what that means is that from an Africa perspective, there's a huge opportunity for Africans, for young Africans, to get involved in the cybersecurity risk management space. We should see Africa take more of a lead in helping to protect the world from the cybersecurity threat, growing cybersecurity threats that we face. We have a lot of young, highly skilled, highly capable Africans, a lot of them in the computer science sector, who I believe should be turning their attention to the cybersecurity risk management space, to learning more about how to develop cyber protection solutions and cybersecurity solutions that will be applicable right across the world. So, you know, what we have in Africa is we have a young, dynamic, highly intelligent youth sector, and they're capable of doing whatever it is they set their mind to. And I think what we should be encouraging them to set their mind to is coming up with cybersecurity solutions, applying themselves to come up with solutions that will tackle the cybersecurity problems that the world as a whole faces. I think Africa has an opportunity to be, you know, a global player from a cybersecurity risk management perspective, and governments and private sectors should be doing a lot more to promote that.
Very critical. And in that sector of which you're operating in, there's this notion of, you know, the big boys, when you talk about the global cybersecurity market. For ARMC, you are doing different. You are Pan-African in nature. How is that impacting? How competitive is that compared to these other multinational players that are coming onto the continent, focusing on the same issue that you are focusing on?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question, Noah, because what we're doing at ARMC is, in our view, you know, quite unique. We're focused really on trying to find African solutions for African problems. I think that because we are a Pan-African organization, because we are dedicated and focused on serving African financial institutions and African businesses, and because a lot of the people who are within our organization have global experience as well as deep Africa experience, we're able to understand our clients' needs better, and we're able to provide solutions that actually make sense and work in an African context. So yes, it's a highly competitive market. Yes, there are big global players, but we believe that when you come to implementing global solutions in Africa, you really need to be able to do that with an African perspective to delivering those solutions. And that's what we do. We're a risk solutions company. We're made up of professionals who are from right across the continent. We're present in Kenya, where we work with the School of Pensions and Retirement Studies, with Dr. Odondu and the School of Pensions and Retirement Studies. Yeah, so we work in a competitive environment, but in that environment, we believe that there's something unique about what we're doing. Our Africa focus is unique. Our insistence on working with professionals, African professionals and professionals based on the continent, is also unique. So those are some of the advantages that we have, and we're really excited about the opportunity for cybersecurity and for cybersecurity businesses on the continent.
That's very important, because we've seen actually doing sort of understanding your market and what is happening on the ground has been very critical. You know, in Kenya, we saw an influx of some of multinationals, and sometimes you fail to do proper research. You come here, you find everything is different on the ground. So having a company that focuses on what is happening in Africa and offering African solution is very critical. And as we finish off briefly, your projections sort of prophesy for us. What is the future of Africa when you talk matters cybersecurity, briefly?
Wow, that's a big question. I'm not a prophet, that's one thing. But I can try and just give my take based on the conversations that I have with business leaders across the continent and partners across the continent on a regular basis. I mean, I think that one thing's for sure. Africa's digital journey, it's really at the beginning. It's really just started, and it's set to grow. And I think the rate of growth of Africa's digital journey and Africa's digitalization is going to be exponential, you know. So with that growth in digitalization comes a growth in some of the demeritorious behaviors that go with that. So it comes with a growth in cybercrime. It comes with a growth in the need for greater cybersecurity. So, you know, as we look forward from for the prospects of cybersecurity on the African continent, what we see is a greater need for cybersecurity. What we see is the threat landscape moving from other parts of the world to Africa. We have a lot of experience in the fraud risk management space. And what we've found in the old traditional frauds is that the frauds that occur in the Northern Hemisphere, in the Far East, in the Middle East, all those frauds eventually come to Africa. Key message that I would share with African business leaders is just because you're seeing something happening in the United States today or in the Far East today, and you think, well, that threat's not here, as you continue to go digital, just be sure that whatever threat you're seeing there is, so whatever problem somebody is dealing with there, be prepared to be able to deal with that problem in Africa for impacting your businesses over the next 3 to 5 years. So, you know, my message to African leaders is about, when it comes to cybersecurity, my message to African leaders when it comes to cybersecurity is to really be prepared. Take a long view, take a forward view, educate yourselves as much as possible about the current cybersecurity threats, and don't ignore it. You know, to board members, don't ignore it. Increase your knowledge, your awareness, your understanding of what is going to be one of the biggest risks and the greatest risks that your organization faces, you know, in the short and medium term. So yeah, that's the way that I would sum it up.
Wow, ignore cybersecurity at your own peril. Thank you very much, Saldys Sheriff from ARMC. That is, when you're mentioning an acronym, it becomes quite tricky, sort of a tongue twister. But Africa Risk Managers and Compliance Partners, thank you for that insightful knowledge and digging into the Africa's cybersecurity space. With that said and done, let's take a look at the markets, shall we?